Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Redbox Studio Facebook Live series. My name is Krista Goon, and I'll be your host for today. And at the same time, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, if you're watching this on YouTube, we welcome you too. Before we get started, I want to say thank you for coming to watch our I would say special edition because this is really the first time I'm doing it with three of my very, very good writer friends. And this is an episode whereby if you've been thinking about writing as a business or you have someone in mind who could really benefit from this episode, please share this with them or even tag them, right? So that they know. Why we're doing this is a little backstory in itself, but I would bring on my friends first, and so that they can also tell you why we decided to do this together. Hi, Audrey.
Hi, Krista. Hello. So a little bit about me. I'm Audrey Teoh.
Okay, let me bring on the rest.
20. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I think it was a little
let's bring them all first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Audrey, you start first.
Let me introduce myself.
Marsha,
Marsha, and over there is Jin.
Hello.
Okay. So I'm Audrey. I've been working as a writer, or in some way, living on writing for 20 years. I started out in editorial, writing for women's magazine. And then I went into PR, and after about 15 years now, I consider myself a hybrid because I do a little bit of everything. Still keep in touch with my editorial writing. I do a lot of PR. I do a lot of healthcare writing as well, and editing work. So it's a very interesting mix, and that's what it can be. If you're open to learning and taking up new challenges. So. On to the next one.
Okay, who will it be? Marsha or Jean?
Marsha?
Hi. I actually started out writing at the same time as Krista and Audrey, and probably Jean as well, about 20 over years. I started out with search engine and digital marketing and writing for magazines and reviews, and I was working with .coms, which introduced me to the internet and the World Wide Web. And hence after that, Web 2.0. So it has brought me around to meeting an amazing bunch of people who are here with me today, and also a lot of clients from all around the world. And that was when I thought to myself, hey, actually, you know what? With all this connectivity, there comes possibilities, right? So yeah, so I fully embrace that, and I continue to upskill myself and continue to learn new things and add on to my writing. And that's where I am today. On to the next person.
Hi, my name is Lee Jin. Same like my friends here, I also started writing in the year 2000. And I'd like to thank my writer friends here as well as Krista, especially Krista actually for hosting us on Redbox Studios. So the topic that we have today is actually, can you survive as a writer? But I think we'd like to add on a little bit, can you thrive as a writer? And I think we are living testimonies on what writers can achieve in their life. So a lot of people associate writing as the struggling writer. It's just like people think of us as the struggling artist. So I like to debunk that myth, with the stories that we will be telling you tonight. I started as a writer for some magazines as well, and I was very lucky to meet people like Krista, like Audrey, and later on I met people like Marsha, and of course lots of other writer friends as well. So as I wrote for some magazines, I also sought writing opportunities online, and from there I was very fortunate to get selected as the Malaysian correspondent for Reader's Digest, and from there I started writing for almost every mainstream media in Malaysia. I've had articles in there, and of course from there on I decided that I'm sure there is more to writing than just writing for publications. And from there, I started specializing in health writing. And then I started writing for hospitals, for pharmaceutical companies, and moving into corporates. And eventually, that was how I got absorbed into hospitals and, do advocacy work, because everything requires writing. Even the signboard that you see in the public toilet is written by a writer. even the message that you see on packaging, on the milk cartons, on whatever boxes, it's all been written by a writer. So if you're ever wondering, can you survive, can make a living as a writer, we are here to tell you that you can. Thank you, Krista.
Okay, so the last person, not least, hopefully. My name is Krista, and I think, I've known these three women for a greater part of my life. Ever since I started really writing after I graduated, that was like in the early 2000s, right? We met each other through the web portal that I told the story on my Facebook page. So if you want to find out the backstory of that, that's how I met these ladies. They were all contributors to that web portal. And even back then, I was doing a lot of things to do with writing and women's issues, right? So how I got started is I love writing, and I still love writing. And like Marsha said, right, we would still probably write until the day we die, I guess. I mean, there really is no way to say it, right? I mean, because all four of us really love the work that we do. And the work that we do is really about writing, and not just writing, because there's different types of writing. And as we will go into later, there are different types of writing. But the writing that we're talking about today is about writing as a business and writing commercially. So I got started with that web portal, but I've also branched out into other kinds of writing. So my writing is mainly for websites, and I believe that a lot of my work is online, but I also used to have a blog, and I still write my blog. I think my blog is about 20 years old. I still have my blog, and I still have it.
I'm still waiting for your newsletter.
Thank you. So I've been writing a lot of different things, but I think the main thing is that we all love writing. So if you're here and you're wondering like, why these women 20 years on, they're still writing? Yes, because we love writing. So now today the question is, can you survive? And like Li Jin mentioned just now, not just survive, but really thrive. And I would say prosper, because through this, we've managed to sustain our families, sustain ourselves, bring up kids, right? Marsha, Li Jin, Audrey, right? Bring up kids, put them through school, college,
University.
So, university. So writing really can be as profitable and lucrative if you know how to make it lucrative and profitable. So shall we start, ladies? So what is the first thing? So I know that a lot of people, if you're watching this and you have questions, you can type it in the comments. But we already know some of the questions that you want to ask. But before that, let me just backtrack a little bit. The backstory, right? Why did we decide to do this? Marsha, Jin, Audrey, do you want to jump in and say why do we wanted to do this? Because there's nothing to do on a Thursday night.
Why do we want to do this?
This session right now,
Why do you want to do this?
For me, it sounds like something that I always say this, I wish that someone was me, back then when I was struggling. 20 years ago was, it was like a black hole, and like Li Jin said, like, how can you even write? It's unimaginable. Are you a writer? Are you starving? Are you okay? My mother used to call me almost every other week, worried about me. Are you making money? Because I'm from the legal background as a lawyer. I quit the bank. And I write for a living. And my grandmother, before she passed away, she was like, "This is not a real job. What is the internet? That kind of feeling. It's so ominous back then. But why do I want to do this? Because I feel that there are a lot of people who can make it in the world as writers. Because like everybody needs writers. Everything from scripts to like packaging, everything. And yes, we can do it. And I want to help others. That's for me.
For me, I always wanted to be a writer from the time I was a kid. I wrote my own stories.
Thank you, Alan.
Lots of books, in lots and lots of notebooks in like Enid Blyton stories and things like that. And that just continued. It was always a fascination for me to work with words. And getting into an editorial line was a blessing for me because I like the creativity, I like the flexibility of it. I like that words can take you places, you know. And then as I got further in, it became very important to me that words were used to communicate clearly, because I encountered a lot of situations where communication was unclear, or unprofessional or whatever, and that just kind of drove me to always want to communicate clearly and professionally, so that people understand what you're trying to say. Otherwise, there's no point. You know, if you write for a magazine, they're just going to turn the page if they don't understand what you're trying to say, or if you're terribly boring. You know, the same thing goes now with digital. You know, they're just going to, close, next link, next link, next link. So my reason for being here tonight is really just to share that, writing, it can be a journey. It can be a journey professionally, it can be a journey personally as well, and it can be very fulfilling. And not just with getting your byline. That's always a thrill for me. But I haven't seen my byline in ages, because the work that I do now is a lot of behind the scenes things for clients, or for corporations and things like that. So, but it's still a source of pride when I see the finished work. My name doesn't have to be there, but I see it and I know it's mine, and that feels really good. So, and I want to share that tonight.
Before we go into
Hello, Mina.
Before we go on, I need to pull up some comments. Some people have been leaving comments also.
Yeah, I just have been waiting.
Yeah, I have been waving. So I read it. Otherwise, they'll think, what is Marsha doing? Why is she waving? Hi, Mina. And then there's Alan who says, so relatable. Okay.
So that's why you saw me doing this.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Li-Jin,
Yeah.
why do you want to do this?
Yeah, I think I really want to do this because similar like what Marsha and Audrey is saying, when we started 20 years ago, there weren't that many resources for us to reach out. And I've come to a point and where I hold a leadership position now, and we see a lot of scripts and a lot of writing that needs to be edited, and we see the younger crowd coming up and going through exactly the same struggles that we had. And I've always thought to myself, what is it that we can do to help the industry? So, the kind of experience that the four of us have got together, I think it is timely, if not necessary, if not even critical, for us to share whatever that we have learned, so that, people, this generation would be able to learn from it and to be able to improve. Because I felt that in our younger days, we probably didn't have that kind of resources, but we did have a lot of mentorship. We have mentorships from people whom we can learn from, or people who can guide us, people who would be there emotionally for us. Because the writing journey that Audrey is talking about, that Marsha related, her mom was checking on her all the time, So the writing journey is not just about writing, but there's a lot of emotional aspects to it. There's a lot of financial aspects to it, when you're not getting the clientele in. So what do you do? And do you go crazy when you don't have any clients, and no writing jobs? What do you do? Or do you just write yourself to death, and don't sleep because you're so afraid that you might not have any work next month? You see Audrey and Marsha smiling because they've been there, isn't it? They've been there. Yeah, some months you're like, oh my god, I don't have any work, so the next time your work comes in, you just refuse to stop picking in work because you're so afraid next month there might not be work, and the next thing you know, you're working like round the clock, and then you just drive yourself mad, you see. So this is the emotional support as well as the physical support that you would require along the journey that Audrey is talking about. So I think what we want to do and to achieve with this, what we're doing today, is that we want people to know that it's real. All the struggles you go through, it's real, and we want to just share with you, how you can go through it, more smoothly. You don't have to suffer as much, and basically that's about it. And also I realized that with COVID, a lot of people now are at a point where they are forced to change their life directions. So many people probably would be thinking, okay, what exactly is the skill or is my expertise that I'm able to capitalize on to make a living because I've lost my job, So a lot of people probably think, I can write, but how do I actually make that into a career? You mean you actually can make a career, So we are here to tell people, yes, it's possible. Yes, you can. But, it helps if you know the tricks. Otherwise, it will take you a far longer time. So what would probably take you 5 to 10 years, with the kind of knowledge that we'll be able to share with you, you probably will be able to achieve that within 1 year.
Yeah. So you see, if you heard from all our ladies here, you know that why we're here is because we want to share what we know, and we know that writing it can be a struggle in the beginning, right? It's not
Yep.
like just because you've got the writing skill doesn't mean it's going to be
Yep.
easy. So when actually how this came about was also because when I got Legion on my Facebook Live few weeks ago, I think a few weeks ago, we were talking about this after the live stream ended. And so we were thinking like, hey, there's something that we can actually do, maybe just as a fun project on the side, because we're all doing different things. But I guess this is the culmination of that, right? After various Zoom sessions on Sundays, this is what we came up with. We thought, okay, let's just try this and put it out there and see whether fellow writers would really resonate with this and see what happens after this, right? So what we plan to do here is just to share with you what we know from our years of writing. So here we have combined experience of at least, how many? We'll say at least 100 years. I got 100 years.
20 years each on average.
About 80,
So
80, 90, plus
We
minus.
must we reveal our age. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Now everybody knows that we're not really that spring chickens anymore.
Okay, so let's start with the first one. So if someone wants to get started into this writing industry, what should they be doing? What's the first thing that they should do? Yeah.
For me,
What do you girls say? Yep.
Anyone can just jump in.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
I
for
think
me,
I'd start.
Audrey?
Oh, sorry, carry on, Marsha.
Okay.
Marsha,
For me, I think putting yourself out there on the internet is the first thing that you should do. Getting yourself a website, I think, is very important. Having a solid and concrete LinkedIn page is very important these days for me. Making networking with people is very important. Making friends and getting the word out there, I think, is the best way to start. Because initially, that's just how I start, getting myself off the ground. There's no magic pill, there's no silver bullet, there's nothing for me to hop on. So I still think it's still the way to go right now. Friends passing the word around. I think that's what you should do. If you can afford it, get a website. If not, have a really solid social media page or LinkedIn profile. If you can, get yourself, a rate card, or something that you can show people. I think that's a very good ground to start on for me. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add to that. For like what Krista and Legion were saying just now. So there's some people who are really, really starting out from scratch. So no writing samples even, and I think that's one of the barriers that a lot of people face. Because most of the time, if you want to write for a client, they're going to ask you for writing samples, and if you don't have any, that leaves you at it's a chicken and egg situation. I want to gain experience, but if I don't get this job, then I don't have any experience to show. So I would say to help yourself get started is to really just start writing. Whether it's you write for yourself, on a blog, whether you write essays on Facebook, or you write opinion pieces and share them on LinkedIn, or even if you're really, really, really starting from scratch and you really don't know where to begin, then human interest stories are a great way to start, because you get to interact with people, you hone your ability to read cues from people and how to ask questions, how to prompt them, to explain more, beyond the yes and no answers. So if you start out, let's say, with a blog, or a special or a social media page that will help you to interact with people and get their stories out there, whether it's the makcik, selling kueh, or the chicken rice man. In times like this, everybody's trying to survive and gain visibility as well, right? So that's a good way to start and kind of get over your nerves, rather than when you get your first paid writing assignment, I can tell you the nerves are real. You get very, very nervous, and you're going to write that introduction or that headline like 50 times and delete it and stare at the empty page and get very, very stressed out. So, just write, take a breath and just write. And that will help you, just get it into a habit until it becomes something familiar to you. Takes the nerves down just a bit.
So relaxing to hear that.
All right. And I think Audrey is right. Basically, it
Yeah.
probably just boils down to just these two words, just write. Yeah, so just write, but what do you do with your writing, isn't it? And where to write for. So yeah, just write. So I think just to relate a little bit of my experience was my first writing experiences was just I just like what Marsha was saying. I trawled the internet. And I Googled these words, writing opportunities. And sometimes I would just Google writing opportunities Malaysia and see what comes out. You see, so you'll be able to see websites that are taking in articles. So from there, I started writing into them. But the first thing you need to do is, when you go to a website or online magazine nowadays, even online newspapers, all that, basically they have what is called writers guidelines. So from the writer guidelines, you need to find out what are the requirements, what is the house style. Then I started writing in for them. So just like what Audrey said, the first time you get a writing assignment, that kind of thrill never leaves you. And you probably remember how much you get paid. Your first writing assignment, how much was that article worth? I know mine was 100 ringgit, and 100 ringgit
Mine
in the
was
year
17
2000.
ringgit and 95 cents. 17
Oh,
ringgit.
wow.
Sad.
No,
Can
it's
you
not
remember?
sad.
Yes, I do
Wow.
remember down to the cent. Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
it was for
Audrey,
family
how
lah.
much
Yeah.
was your writing? How much was
My
your
Yeah.
first
first
How much
article?
is your first page?
freelance. Oh gosh, I was I terribly underquoted because it caught me by surprise.
But can we know?
And
I want to know too.
oh my
Yeah, how
gosh, I
much?
think I
So
charged
you
like
had
300 ringgit for to copyright an entire Christmas booklet for a perfume brand.
Wow,
So
that's
right.
really
horribly
Wow.
underpriced.
No, but
Okay,
but
okay.
I don't think underpriced, Audrey. Okay, just to share a little bit about part of the journey is that along the way, as you continue to network, like what Marsha was saying, eventually I still find that as a writer, the greatest way to promote whatever you can do is still the word of mouth. So over time, you will find that you will have very big clients, and all you do is just to keep writing for these big clients. So the best thing to happen to you eventually at some point is to have a retainer. So when you have a writing retainer with some big corporations, like for me, I was very lucky. I had a retainer first with Malaysian Women's Weekly, which is a magazine, and then later on with the Asunta Hospital. So from there, once you have a retainer, then I realized that is a secret trick actually. So the retainer keeps you sane because you're not stressed out like crazy thinking that, oh my god, at the end of this month I'm not going to get any money to pay my bills. So once you have your retainer in place, and then all the extra work that comes in is just an extra, and
okay.
you
Now, Jean, I gotta stop you. Okay, we
right.
talk about retainers as if everyone knows what a retainer is. Can you please define it?
Yeah. Well, actually, a retainer is and maybe I would say a professional term that people in the creative industry use. So it's not just limited to writers. I think for graphic designers and for all kinds of creative work, there is this term known as photographers as well as a retainer, where the company would pay
Even
you.
lawyers.
Yeah, even
Even
lawyers.
lawyers, is it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think a lot of industries they will have what is called a retainer. So for freelancers like us, if they were to get you as a retainer, that means every month you get a fixed pay. So, like for example, my first retainer with Women's Weekly, they offered me initially was just 900 for 3 articles a month. So within the whole month, I just have to make sure that I produce 3 articles, and at the end of the month, the salary, the 900 comes in. Of course, later on it was upgraded to 2,000 a month. So once you have that in place, it really frees you from the emotional stress of not getting writing assignments coming in. So basically that's what a retainer does. It just you just get the revenue on a monthly basis, and they will give you all the assignments. Sometimes you get more assignments on some months than others. I remember when I was in one of my retainers, yeah, there was one. I think it was actually quite a long time, many months in which I didn't get any assignments, but my money keeps coming in every month. You see, so of course I was very guilty after that. Then I say, please give me work. Like every month, the finance pays me, but I'm not getting any work. So please
Isn't
just give
that isn't that a great
Wow,
thing
you're
to
so lucky. Yeah.
isn't that a great
I
thing
know,
So
to be
I know.
paid for not doing anything?
Yeah, but you feel very guilty. I think writers are like that. You see, we are not normal people. We practically,
Not normal people.
yeah, really. I never felt that writers
Mine,
are normal. Yeah.
for me, it's the opposite actually. I also got a retainer, but mine is I worked for a US company for like 13 years. So yeah, it's sort of like
Oh,
on a retainer basis also. But I got worked to death. I didn't get any free time at all.
But what
So
was your
that's the
retainer
opposite.
like, Marsha? What was the retainer like in US dollars? Now, Jean was telling about
US,
Malaysian ringgit. US dollars, how much?
it's a, it's a, it's about 1,007 to 2,000 USD. To sometimes it's 3008, but I had to get other writers on board because there were a lot of websites that we were working on. So it depends, how much you want to charge, what's the skill level, what is it? Is it a blog? Is it a social media thing? Is it a brochure? Is it a corporate profile? So it all depends. But it all fits if you take a retainer, that's what you may have to discuss the scope and the
yes.
kind of things that you're gonna write about. Yeah. So
Yeah.
these are things you learn along the way.
Yeah, but
Marsha,
Marsha,
I think, yeah,
yeah,
it's been
I want to
Marsha,
ask her. I want to ask her about how did
yes,
she get the US jobs, right? So I think
yes.
when we say the word US jobs, oh my god, the ears kind of perk up. Like,
Oh my
okay,
god,
how do you get
yeah.
that?
The green
How do you
bag,
get that?
yeah.
Well, it's called the magic of search engine optimization, right? So yeah, back then it was much easier to get yourself ranked, and my website ranked pretty high. So I worked for clients from everywhere, from like this end of Hong Kong to the US. I have a lot of US clients. I'm hoping that I can see them, but I don't think they're here. But from Poland to Egypt to Germany to Australia, New Zealand, everywhere. So that's why I said it widened up my world so much,
Mm.
and it was like boom, mind blowing. So yeah, search engine optimization. Yep.
I
Yeah,
almost wanted to ask you what was the currency exchange at that point. I know if it's now, it would have been much
quite high, I
higher.
think.
Wow. But yeah, when they pegged it, it was like eight times
Mm,
Times how much?
3.8,
Three or four,
something
huh?
like that. But it was very high, 3.8
yeah,
or
yeah,
something like that. But then
yeah.
it started dropping lah. So I didn't adjust the price, and then my retainer got smaller and smaller. So
So Audrey, do
Yeah.
you have a retainer
Audrey.
for PR? Yeah, for PR.
No, I'm attached to Indeed Communications now. But what is very interesting is my bosses, the ladies that I work with, are actually my former colleagues from Weber Shandwick. So when I actually joined Indeed Communications, um, one of my the agreements that we had was that I actually wanted to get back to writing. So I was in a funny position where when I spent about 7 years in editorial, and I was finding that in a women's magazine, it's very cyclical. Every year you tend to deal with a similar bunch of topics, and I was meeting very senior people in the magazine industry who had been there for so long that they didn't know what else to do, and they were so bored and jaded, and I didn't want to end up like that, and that's how I ended up in PR instead. So after like over 8 years in PR, which I really enjoyed. I learned a lot, toughened me up a lot because I had to deal with clients and a lot of expectations and things like that. But it started, my seniority they wanted to put me in a senior management position, and I was thinking that's not what I want to do, to be talking to the MDs and the CEOs and things like that, because my forte is writing and communication, and that would take me away from all of it. So I was approached by my former colleagues, and they wanted someone to help with the back-end writing work, and I said, yeah, I can do that because I'm really, I'm done with dealing with clients, and I just really want to get back to my roots, which is writing. So it clicked. It was the perfect situation, and that's where I've been for about almost 10 years now, I think. Yeah, so I'm really a hybrid in many ways, not only in the types of writing that I do, but the industries in which I operate. Because I do editorial as well as PR, and I recently had a project where I was doing script outlines for a educational program. So really, it's a nice jumble of things. Yeah, and in terms of a retainer right now, my biggest retainer would be with a content agency, and I'm constantly updating web content for a couple of hospitals. And I can say the one thing about healthcare is that when you're constantly reading about symptoms and diagnosis, sooner or later everything starts to ache or hurt or twinge. I think, Legion, after so many years, I think you can relate to that.
Yep. There's a condition for that. There's a name for that condition.
So yeah, that's me. Where I am right
Okay, so it means that if I summarize it, it means that you have to get your writing work or writing samples ready, right? And then you have to get yourself a credible website, or at least a LinkedIn page or a blog or something where your writing can be there for people to read. And then try to get yourself a retainer after a while, if you can. So that
Yes.
frees you up from all this worry of what happens next month, right? After this one is done, what happens next month? Yeah.
It's really scary when you have kids. So anyone
Oh,
out
one
there,
more
when
thing.
you have kids to feed, yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
said one more
Audrey.
thing?
Sorry, just one more thing when it comes to writers. I've met many writers who are very experienced. They've done amazing work, but they never curated a portfolio. So I would say that a portfolio, spend the time to, ask your client for a copy of that book or that brochure.
Mm.
Save the link of whatever or a clipping of whatever publication you wrote for, because those things can just disappear overnight, and it's very hard to find them again. And those could be the things that kind of launch you or get you noticed by another client. So that's very, very important. And a lot of writers I know are actually very bad at doing that. So yeah, I would say spend a little bit of time to make sure that you compile and curate your portfolio.
Then my question is, what if you just start out and you're a total newbie, right? And no one's giving you any work. Even if you go and search, right, writing opportunities, whatever, but you're so new in the market. There's no work. What do you do?
I think we can, ultimately you just have to just write, just like what Audrey said, no, just write. So what you do, with the writing, like for me, I did a lot of writing for NGOs. One of the first NGOs that I wrote for was a Tritis Foundation. So with NGOs, if you can volunteer your writing services for them, they'll be more than happy, to be able to get some help. You can help them with their websites, you can help them with their brochures, with their fundraising materials, just so that you have something to show for your portfolio. If you're going to say that you are okay to help them, to do their writing, you will be able to find a lot of places that require help like that, and that becomes part of your portfolio. Yep. And
Yeah,
you can
let me
take
add to
other
that. You can also write for your uncles or father or
yeah.
mother or an acquaintance as well. Yeah.
True, yeah. But I think that's how the word gets around, isn't it? Yeah, I wasn't that savvy either when I started. Like Marsha was saying, even Audrey is saying, LinkedIn, have a portfolio, etc. I wasn't that savvy in collecting all these, but I guess I was very lucky in that the word of mouth really got around. And one thing which I think helps is the specialization. I would think that it helps to specialize in one particular genre. So for me, it was health. So I was very specifically concentrating on writing health-related articles and health-related materials. So that really helped. I think for Marsha, even for Krista, for Audrey, each of us here have our own specialty, and I think that is a scoring point. For you to specialize in a particular form of writing. What do you guys think? You girls.
Yeah, I think specialization is definitely the key thing. Maybe in the beginning, when you first started, you want to write different things, right? There's so many things you want to write, but after maybe 1 or 2 years,
Yes.
or you
Yes.
even after some time, you know that you will gravitate towards certain areas.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
things make you happier when you write. So I think to me, you gauge it by saying, okay, this one, if I write this, am I happier? Or if I'm like, oh, I don't want to write this, that's definitely not the kind of things you want to
Your
do,
cup
right?
of tea, yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So you should be, I mean, as writers, I think sometimes we always feel that, oh,
I
if
would
I'm paid to
also,
write and I have to write something, right? But it also makes you have to feel happy writing it. Audrey?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I was going to say that, when you're first starting out is to try as many different types of writing as you can,
Mm.
because some things that you may not like, but somehow turn out to be very good at, so it's a very odd thing that fate plays on us sometimes. You don't really enjoy it, but it's in great demand and you can make a good income from it. At the same time, I would say it's very important let's say for someone who is new to writing, but you're not new to working. So you must have some specialized knowledge from your past work experience, right?
Correct.
So you can use that. For me, when I first started freelancing, most of my jobs came from people who had worked with me directly before,
Mm.
in my previous agencies, previous publications. So that was actually a huge boost for me in the first few years, because it gave me access to a lot of opportunities that I otherwise wouldn't have, with cold calls and things like that. And on the flip side of that, don't underestimate cold calls. And
Yeah.
on Facebook, for example, there are lots of writing
Or
groups,
cold
writing
emails. Or
opportunities
cold
for
emails, right? Not just cold
writers.
calls, but cold emails.
Yes, yeah, and
Oh, in
yes,
other
a
words,
lot
I
of
was
them
a
don't have.
professional spammer. Professional spammer.
Professional spammer, huh? Yeah.
That's true. But on occasion, you will get a
Right.
reply. Like Krista replied to me when I first wrote to her, and I was so excited.
Yeah, yeah.
The editor of Visuals Weekly replied to Li Jin, right? So yeah, things like that. You just have to keep trying,
Mm.
and you need to keep learning as much as you can, because um, one thing that comes to mind really is, write what you know, and if you don't know, find out, right? So there's so many experts out there now. We've got internet, and there's lots of information, lots of resources out there. So if you're just starting out, really try to build a broad foundation, because that makes more opportunities available to you before you decide on a specialization.
Let me add to that, right? I think on top of just keep writing, I think it's also important for people to upskill themselves and to add to their package. For example, I may be a writer, but I took up graphic design. I took up, I designed brochures. I wrote corporate profiles. I learned up HTML, web development, and stuff like that. So if that's something that can put you above the rest, and it's like, oh, okay, if let's say a client comes to you, I need writing, but I also need a graphic designer, and you can do both. Okay, well, maybe you're not excellent in graphic design, but you can kind of like upskill yourself, and okay, I can help with this as well if that's what you need. I think, yeah, you can explore that and keep upgrading yourself, and just yeah, you can add on to the package.
Yeah. I also want to talk about that a little bit, because a lot of what I do, the web copywriting, is tied to the website development. So that's also one way where you can really create more value for your clients. Is if you're just going out there and offering website copywriting without the website, it's
Mm.
very difficult, because the design comes with the content, right? And the content goes with the design. So if you want to really make it a complete package, either you need to team up with someone, or you maybe learn, right, a little bit of what you need to do to really put together a package, put together something that allows you to really raise your own value of what you're offering. Because clients don't come to you and say, hey, I want this. But if you can offer other things besides that writing that you do, I think that will be so much more valuable to your client and help them as well as help yourself. So I think trying to think of it this way, broader, meaning like, okay, if I have writing only, it's not going to do much, but I need writing plus something else. And I think that part, a lot of new writers or even those wanting to write need to start thinking, right? Like, what can I pair with the writing if I want to do more and I want to really raise my value to the client as well as my worth in the market and stand out at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, you could offer packages like, writing, and you can also do editing. Some people couple that with translations. Some come up with creative direction. So I think the possibilities are
Transcribing.
endless. Yes, transcribing. Yes, and also what's that called now? What's that
I
called?
did voiceovers too. Okay, I
Yeah,
wrote the script and did the
voiceovers, yeah, scripts.
voiceover.
Correct,
Wow.
scripts. Yeah, I think one thing which maybe like what Krista is saying, if you are just totally new and you're wondering, so exactly where do I start and how do I start? Probably one thing which you could explore is, how the different types of writing, the demand for writing out there, it's really huge. Most people would not realize that there's so much of different aspects of writing. You could be just writing speeches, you could be just writing scripts, yeah, you could be writing
For business
just
grants, remember?
yeah, business grants, yes, correct, business grants, yeah, even the for
Pitches,
fundraising,
pitches,
yeah,
pitches,
pitches,
proposals,
yes, proposals,
Product packaging.
product
press
packaging, yes,
releases, press
press releases,
releases,
yes.
and press
Yes.
releases. I always see people, looking for writers for press releases. And one more thing, which is a very good business, which I did it and I didn't like it, but I know it's a very good payments. Annual reports. Yeah, there are companies that
Yeah.
specialize in
Oh,
annual reports. Oh, that earns good money. But when I first did it, I wanted to die because, oh my God, I struggled so much with it. After doing the first few, I told myself never again because every word was like squeezing blood out
But
of
the
me.
money was good, right?
Oh, yeah, the money
The
was
money
good.
was good, right? So
Yeah.
you see, that's where we're trying to get at, right? It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sometimes the money
yeah.
is good, but it may not be the best thing that you want to write,
Correct, correct. But
right?
that's
So
what happens in the beginning, like Krista. In the beginning,
try
you try
writing a
everything.
manual, okay? Try writing a
yeah,
Yeah.
manual,
manual.
manuals
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Oh,
all.
yes. Instruction
OMG.
manuals.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
instruction
I
manual.
know. Correct.
Speaking of editing, wait, hang on. Speaking of editing, this one, my book was edited by Audrey. Yay!
See, that's a nice thing about being in a network, you see, because you have friends among each other and then you can share stuff like that, you see. It's like, okay, I may not be very good in this. I can just pass it over to Audrey. Audrey has worked with me in some of my work as well. Okay, one very, very good opportunity for writing also is writing for, back then, of course, now no longer, but writing for conferences, show dailies. Wow, show dailies are really good money as
Oh,
well.
wow.
But they squeeze you for 4 days. You have to write like the wind. Write very quickly. Submit your everything by 5 p.m. so that they can send it for editing and layout and print by the night itself. So that by tomorrow morning, it will be available to all
Yeah.
conference and expo, yeah, the exhibitors and all. Yeah, so that was very good money back then as well. So I typically have a team of maybe between 6 to 10 writers, and that's where the network comes in. So I had people like Rena and Audrey and a whole load of other friends as well who join me as writers. So we keep a very close network together, and we can bank on
So,
each
so
other's talent.
the one thing that we can say about being writers is that you really love other writers because we don't hate
Yes.
each other, right? We don't credit
No, we
because we
don't.
know writing is such a
We can't.
difficult thing to do.
Yeah, we
You
can't
know what?
because you
Here's
share
my
your
take
pain.
on
Right?
having writer. Yeah, having writer friends is like, yes, they share your pain. Okay. Second thing is, one thing about writing is that it's sort of like when you write, you think that back then this was before Grammarly and all that, right? So you
Oh,
always need that extra pair of eyes because you can never
oh
spot
yes.
your own mistakes. So your
Yes.
friends are passing out, how can you see, does this look perfect yet? And yet when it goes to publication, there is stuff there's one dot there or there's one comma there that is out
Oh
of
my
place,
gosh.
and then everyone goes berserk, right? So
Yeah,
this is
correct.
Yes.
and when it goes to print, it goes to print, right? So yeah, so it's always good to have that extra pair of eyes, and I love writers because they're so meticulous. There's like this dot is not supposed to be here, right?
Marsha, that's why we're both in digital, right? Because we love the
Yeah,
web. Because the web is so easy. You
then
make
we
a
can
mistake,
change immediately.
you make a
Web
mistake,
is
you go back,
so
you go back in,
forgiving.
and you're yes. But if it's print,
No,
back in the
gosh.
days, you have to go and I remember we had to go and
Yes.
scrape out stuff from the film. I don't know whether you remember film days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes,
Yes.
when I first
scrape
started out in
extra
magazines,
letter
we were
off.
still doing films. Oh my gosh.
Oh yes. Oh
OMG.
yes. Yes.
Yep.
And
Okay,
then
okay. Now I gotta stop you girls because we've got some really interesting comments here. So I'm gonna pull this up. Okay,
okay.
let's see. Latin says, "Hi, ladies, great sharing. I started in publications, then corporate comm, marketing, and sales. Been thinking of going to corporate web writing for the longer term. Yes,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, go go in. I mean, it's like it's a huge. I mean, it's a huge. It's a
Yeah,
huge
go.
place. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Well,
No,
it
I
could
would say
be.
Because
as
it's
a
huge.
corpcom,
Yeah.
as someone in corpcom, you definitely have specialized knowledge.
Skills. Yes.
You know the language
Mm.
that comes with representing a business or a corporation. So getting to corporate web writing is actually a very natural progression.
Mm.
Yeah. Another comment. Let's see. This is Malar. My friend, that is my friend. It's so good to listen to all of you share, very relatable, especially the bits about exploring every opportunity possible when starting out, offering to help NGOs, family,
Yeah.
friends, and marvel at the unexpected doors that open. Yes, yeah, that's true. I mean, we start with our own circle first. We tell if you're a writer, please go and tell your family, friends, and neighbors that you're a writer so that they can give you work to do, right? They can
Yeah.
you can build up your work samples.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think one of the questions that people are asking also is like, so do you need to register a company if you want to, go into writing?
yeah,
Or do
okay. Yes.
isn't it? So
So
I
how
think I get asked.
ladies, how?
Yep. I mean, personally, I felt that it
You go
helps.
ahead.
Yeah, for me, I felt that it helps because if I was submitting an invoice as an individual, then you would only be limiting yourself to the smaller companies. As you write for MNCs, they would require you to submit your invoices as a company. So it's very easy. Just go to SSM and register. It's so cheap. Just as an enterprise, just I think it was 60 or 80 ringgit just for registration, and every year it's just 60 ringgit. I found that it really helps because it really makes you appear more professional, and at the end of the day it also helps you to frame your mindset. You don't want to think of yourself as a writer, you want to think of yourself as an entrepreneur, and your product is your writing and your content rather. So I actually stopped calling myself a writer for a long time, because we are more content providers. Yeah, Marsha, you're also smiling, right? Yeah, we're content providers, content curators, or yeah, I know what you're laughing at. Yeah, the kind of content that we have produced. Yeah, you have produced.
Let's
Yeah,
let's
so
keep our mouth shut for that. We all know her secrets.
yeah.
Yeah, so you believe that it's good to start even a sole
Yeah.
proprietorship, register
Yes.
the company so that you can bill or invoice under the company name,
Yeah,
right?
for
Yeah.
bigger clients in particular, like for example, even when I was working, I'm a retainer with the hospitals and with the very big pharmaceutical companies, they really require you to register a company. Yeah, I don't know about the
Oh,
rest of you.
Alan says it's actually 70 ringgit per year.
70, okay? Is it 70 now? Okay.
Okay, let me pull it up. Yeah, 70 per year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, still not expensive.
I
I
thought
think
it
it's
was
pretty
60.
very
Yeah.
worth it, and you actually
Yeah.
feel yourself in a different space when you have a
Correct.
company.
Correct. Yes.
You move from the space as the writer into a business, an entity, a
Yes.
professional, body. I think that puts you in a very good frame of mind to market yourself, and yeah, and a sense of belonging as well. You can bring your other teammates and all that, and you're all parked under a common
One
name, a
umbrella.
common company umbrella, and offering a
Right.
package
Yes.
with it. Yeah, I think that's good. 70
That's right.
bucks.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, but whatever it is, as when you start writing, when you want to earn an income as a writer, that's one of the things you need to get used to, which is to keep all your financial affairs in order. You need to keep track of your quotations. Make sure they're signed, before you start work, and follow up on your invoices if you don't hear from them for a while. It's one aspect of freelancing that tends to catch a lot of writers by surprise.
Yep.
If you're not attached
Me,
to a company,
especially
you don't have HR. Yeah, you don't have HR people or finance people
finance
responsible for
having.
you. You have to do it yourself. Yeah.
Yep.
I hate to admit this, but I mean, like, I've dealt with runaway clients because I'm so bad at this. So
Oh
anything that
yes, we all
involves
have. Oh
numbers
yes.
and yeah, like invoice
Yeah.
papers, tracking, and all these things, I get lost in it, and I've runaway clients everywhere. And I think it's a good place to start if you start right from the beginning. And then it becomes a habit, and then you get used to it, and you will continue doing it. But because I didn't have the experience and I didn't do it from the start, so yeah. But eventually you will have to start, looking at invoices
Being
and
organized.
quotes and stuff. Mm.
Yeah. And maybe the thing that I learned for myself is that when you can afford it, please get yourself an accountant,
Oh yeah.
because that will make your life so much easier, especially for writers. I think writers, we just love our words, right? We're not really that
Yeah.
big on numbers, and all these numbers kind of like floor us and then make us feel like, oh no, I have to do my taxes, I will do this. So I said, if you can and when you can afford it, please get yourself an accountant who can advise you, so that you can happily write away without worrying that you owe some people money, or some people have run away with your money and you forgot to chase for your money. So which brings me to this question, right? How much should we charge for writing? The question that everyone loves, right? It's like the elephant in the room, right? Like, I'm starting out in
Yes.
writing, but how much should I charge? What should I charge?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Well, it depends on where you are in your career, right? Where your
Yeah.
starting
Yep.
point is. I used to write for cheap, okay, because I was starting out. But eventually, as I started to grow and I put more value into the work that I produce, I started to charge a little bit more. But I charge per hour. So based on my estimate of how long am I going to get this done and how much do I want to charge for that hour. So eventually it starts from like, I want to earn 50 ringgit an hour to I want to earn 200 an hour. It depends. That's how I quote my clients and my friends now, and it also involves looking at geographical boundaries, what the market rate like, because I cannot charge on the Malaysian client the same I charge the US client or the UK client, because there was store market. So right, depends
That's true. Yeah. That's
for
true.
me.
Audrey?
But
I think it's always a juggling act. Nobody wants to price themselves so high that nobody wants to work with them, but you don't want to price yourself so low that you cannot survive. So I would say that an hourly rate is a good start, but bear in mind that if you are highly efficient, an hourly rate is not necessarily in your favor. So you have to be you have to try to be objective about it. Just because you know this topic like the back of your hand, and you only need an hour, that doesn't reflect the average market. And you also need to factor in the amount of time you spend on research. That's the aspect that charging by word doesn't cover. Right. So there are pros and cons to charging by word and charging by hour. But at the end of the day, you need to think of it as an income. So let's say if you are trying to survive and you have a bar of, let's say I have a goal of earning 5,000 ringgit, per month for my writing. So if someone approaches you to write a 1,000-word article and only wants to pay you 100 ringgit, that means to meet your goal, you're going to need to write 50 1,000-word articles to meet your 5,000 ringgit salary. Does that seem realistic to you? Because I have received quotes like that. before, and best of all, it was 100 ringgit, and they weren't going to pay for travel, and I needed to attend events. So yeah, you can see where you need to be a bit careful about the what you quote, what you can survive on. So set yourself a minimum level, I would say, beyond which you will not go. Yeah, and I would be careful of all those right for exposure clients, or the give me a special rate and I will get you more work in the future clients. Because in my experience, the future work never pans out, and all all you've done is essentially, you've kind of cheated yourself in a way, by agreeing to a much lower rate than
You've become a slave.
Mm.
You
yeah,
become the
yeah.
slave.
And
Right?
sometimes you are bound to get burned. I mean, a couple of times I was
Yeah.
trying to
Yes.
hold out and say no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Then I thought, oh, maybe I'm just being too too demanding.
Cautious.
So maybe I'll do it. Yeah, and then yeah, you get burned. The client will disappear after that. Or I had one client who asked me to submit a sample article. And I said, okay, I have previously published samples that I can show you, but I'm not going to write a fresh new article for you as a sample. No. And of course, naturally, I never heard from that person
Some
again.
of them even like, oh, let me test you. Write 300,
Oh,
400
yeah.
word article. Yeah, it's a test,
No,
But
Yeah.
then
that's why you
eventually,
have a portfolio of published work.
Yep. That's true. That's
just
true.
read this. There are 20, 30 pages of this. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But that's what your portfolio is for, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
recently we've been getting a lot of requests from overseas, right? People who are looking at 1,000 word articles at 100 ringgit. I'm sure we have seen that being circulated, isn't it? And I think it's worrying as well because just like Krista said, this is the elephant in the room. Everybody wants to know what is the right price to charge. We don't want to undercharge, and yet at the same time, we don't want to price ourselves out of the market. But for sure, for 1,000 word article, 100 ringgit, that's I think that's way too low lah. Yeah, even back in the
You
day,
know
I would
what? And
say,
I'm just gonna say this, right? Eugene and Audrey and Krista, I'm gonna ask you this. Have you guys seen this ad, right? Yeah, I found it quite offensive, as a writer. But there's this new program that it's like artificial intelligence writing. Just put in your topic, what you
yeah,
want written,
Oh,
what is it for, target market, blah blah, blah, and
an
AI will
article
churn
appears.
out the copy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
that.
that
I've seen
I've
that. Yeah,
heard of it. I've never seen it in
that's
action, but
also
I've
offensive.
heard of it, and it's yes,
yeah, yeah.
totally.
I've seen it.
But I
I've
can
seen
also
it, and
say, right, no matter how, right, you can have, I mean, of course, it's getting better and better, artificial intelligence. But eventually, there must be a human editor, a
correct.
human to
Mm.
look through the entire thing because they
Yeah,
can write, but it's not necessarily what the client wants. So eventually, I think
yeah,
someone still has to look at it, right?
correct. Yeah. After all, the AI was
And I
invented by a human.
Yeah.
And to me, right, because there are so many different personas that you can take on.
Oh
For
yeah,
like, for example,
true.
you wouldn't use the same kind of language and words for selling a perfume and to selling a motorbike, right? So
Yeah.
it's completely different. So you can't tell the artificial intelligence what to say. And also, if you're writing for the target audience who's young and it's like yo yo yo, or do you use like very mature language, data facts, percentage, that kind of thing. You cannot, AI cannot do that for you, but a
Yeah,
human
Correct.
can, right?
yeah. Context and nuance is something I feel that AI will not be able to mimic.
Yeah. So I
But we
think
haven't answered. So we haven't
we
answered
have we,
Krista's
we have some
question.
questions. Yeah, you did it lah. I think all of you did lah. In some
Run
way,
away
Yeah.
in
train.
some way, in some ways, you've all said like certain ways that you've priced your writing, right?
Yeah.
Like how can
Mhm.
you don't go too low. At the same time, if you're new, don't go too high, right? Or if like what Marsha and I believe, if you can package it with something else, then it's not
Yeah.
really so much about the writing anymore. It's writing
Yep.
plus whatever XYZ.
Correct.
Something that comes
Correct.
with graphic design, websites, and all that. So try and
PR.
see PR, you know, if you can do the extra for your client, I think that's a
I'll
good
write
one.
the press release for you, and I will also release the press for you. I release the news for you. You know, so that really helps. That's a very good package to have.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to pull up some comments now. Oh, there are quite a number of comments here. Okay.
Really.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's start from
You need
here.
accountant.
Helene said, a dear friend of mine is an accomplished writer in the field of journalism. We imagine about the possibility of a post-retirement work to become an entrepreneur, writer, editor. Yeah, actually it is, right? I mean, writing is actually,
This is what we are talking about, you see, because you already know how to write. You just want to know how to turn it into a business, correct? You know, Helene, and that's what we're here to to talk about today. We know you can write, but how do you make business out of it? Yeah.
And sustainable, not just a one-off. One-off. Okay, then Mala's one is quite long. Oops. Quick sharing. In one of my earlier postings about the good practice we had in the editorial creative team, we did contract publications, advertising, and some of our best work will go on either one of these two walls, the wall of fame or the wall of shame.
Nice.
The notoriety of the wall of
Don't
shame.
be ashamed, man.
Many of us grow thicker skin, laugh at tough criticism, and really up again. That's a good one. That's a really good.
You know,
You
during
know,
the
all of
days
us
of
have
print,
something cringe, right?
in the days of print, this is real, you know, and it's horrifying when you do have an error. So we've all had our horror stories, lah. I was, you know, in one of our earlier chats, I was telling the ladies here that, you know, one of the biggest errors I did was to get the name, get the age of my interviewees wrong, and that was such a big error, lah. You know, So that was no good.
Fact check.
Yes, you know, when you want to write so fast that you don't fact check.
I want to pull this up also. I was just talking about accountants. So this is my friend Q Hong. So Q Hong, accountant. She's an accountant. Okay, so in case anyone's watching,
you should say, need accountant, call me, you know.
Find her on Facebook. Okay, Mala asked this question again, which is, I think it's pretty good. Where are some of the links, places, people you go to upskill yourselves? Do you have preferred go-to options? Good one, Mala.
It's a good one, man.
There are a lot of Facebook pages that I go to.
Okay, Marsha first lah. Marsha answer first.
Udemy, and I think I find friends who are skilled in a particular area, and they can teach me. I think for me, it's mentoring more of one-on-one person. But back then, upskilling was something that was really difficult to do. But I think in this day and age, there's really no place you cannot go to, even YouTube videos and ebooks. You have so many options to learn, pick something up. I used to go to MPH to buy 3 books, okay, like this thick, and it cost me about $300-400. It's big money back then, $300-400, freelance writer, starving, 2 kids, okay. So that was the only way I could upskill. To learn how to develop a website, what's HTML language, what's Web 2.0, which is now called social media, by the way. What is Google, Then you have so many ways to learn. So I think this generation and whatever it is that you want to do with your from here on, that I think you can go anywhere from Udemy to Skillshare, and even pick up a masterclass.
I think even for experienced writers, sometimes it's you just start a writing course, and that can kind of just put you in a new direction, because a lot of us, I think, you've been writing for a long time, and you start to specialize, or you start to get into a comfort zone, and then after a while it starts to feel a little bit stale. And when you're a freelancer, it's harder to meet people. Like in a regular job, you have colleagues, you have the people in the office next door.
So lonely.
People that you meet at events,
Very isolating.
So sometimes you don't realize it until you kind of hit like a area where you're just like, why doesn't it seem interesting anymore to write? Or why aren't the words just like flying out, flying out of me the way it normally does? And a writing course, it I don't know if it counts as upskilling per se, but it's just something to light a spark, perhaps, or even if you just learn like one thing and it sticks with you, in next week, next month, next year. You might get an assignment and think, oh, hey, that's useful. It's like me, and I a couple of years after I helped Krista with web wisdom, and I came across a term, while reading an article, and I was like, hey, I know that term. I know what that means now. And I was so excited. I actually shot a note to her, and she burst out laughing.
Which is true. I mean, that's the beauty of being an editor, right? You get to learn as you earn.
Yep, that's true.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
That's true.
So, Li Jin, what about you? Where do you go to upskill yourself?
Well, I don't really particularly go anywhere to upskill because, we all know, every writer knows that, the best way in which you can write well is to read a lot. So I read whatever that I need to write.
Oh, how can we forget?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know I need to write a lot of medical stuff, so I will read a lot of medical stuff. If I need to write whatever, I will just go and research a lot and on that, and then from there, I sort of just analyze how the writing skill is, and then I'll just extract what is needed. Extract, not copy paste. Yeah. So extract, and then from there, I see some of the writing forms which I felt that, wow, I really like this. They make a very complicated, a very complex issue sound very simple, and you just model it after that, and you learn from what the best writers come up with. So it's more modeling practices rather than go to certain places to upskill. So that's what I would do.
I would say that probably all of us have our own copywriting swipes or writing swipes. I don't know whether you have that, but I personally do. Sometimes when I read something very interesting, I say, oh, I must keep this because I may want to refer to it, in next time I want to, do something. So I keep all that. But personally, I think one of the places I got upskill myself, like what Marsha shared, Udemy, Skillshare, and all those places. But I also follow and read. There are some really good classics. I mean, for myself, it's actually a lot on copywriting. So I read a lot of the classics. So there are some, I mean, basically they're men, okay, men writers. Hardly ever come across a woman, but names like Gary Halbert. I don't know whether some of you know Gary Halbert. And then I love Jay Abraham. I was just listening to his podcast today. Well, a lot of copywriting is a combination between writing and marketing. So I think if you can read marketing, you can read writing, you can combine these two, you'll be a great copywriter. So I think that is probably like some of these places. One person that I know, which a lot blogs, read blogs. There is a person that I know who writes really well. His name is Neville Medora. I'm not too sure, Marsha, do you know this person, Neville Medora? He's a great copywriter. If you just Google him, Neville Medora. Then there's Gary Halbert. Gary Halbert is, he's passed on. So all this, I would say, people who have been there, done that, just find out who are these people and just follow their work or read their past work so that you know what you can do with what you have and see whether you can, like Jean said, model after them. Yeah.
So add to that, Krista, actually, I also have a whole, a book, not my app on the app on my phone. There's a whole bunch of articles that I think I like, and then there's on Medium that I save and bookmark. I think these are things that we should keep for not just for future reference, but later on you will read it again and you will see if the kind of style, the kind of words, the kind of poise or the persona that you can emulate or model after. I think that's really useful as well. It's hundreds of articles, and I would take that name from you, Krista, later on.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that as newbie writers, I wish I knew this when I was starting out. It's like I wish someone would tell me, hey, go to these resources, read first, find out, explore a little bit, and then from there see how you can improve your writing. That maybe back in the days we didn't have the internet, right? Now we do have the internet. It's so much easier for us to search and find and Google that person. But back then it was a little bit harder. So I would say that having the right resources would really be helpful in getting someone, improve them, their writing, or even just open up your mind to different kinds of writing out there. not just one kind of writing. Yeah. Okay. So we are actually 11 minutes past the hour.
Really?
Wow.
Okay.
I saw a very good question just now. Let's not find it.
Yeah, I saw many
Okay,
good questions
wait.
coming up.
Okay, let's see. Oh, there's one. Yes, I saw one. Okay, this
Yeah.
one. I
Oh, yeah. This is the one. Yeah. Oh my God.
Are we okay to
Somebody
hang
answer
on?
it. Regine?
Are we wait before we
Huh?
go
Valid
on?
question.
Are we okay to extend a little bit more? I did ask you ladies,
Yeah.
right? Are we okay?
Yes,
We're
yes,
okay. Then
yes.
we can continue. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk about Aju's
Yeah.
question. Do
Yeah.
you have any tips on how to handle difficult clients? Would you work with them again? Good one.
Okay.
Good
I
question.
think it depends
Good
on how
one.
desperate you are at that point in time. If you're desperate
Yeah.
for the income at that point in time, I guess you would. But I would confess that I have had difficult clients that after one or two assignments, I decided that I don't want to kill myself, mentally and psychologically by doing that. And I decide not to reject them, but to give them a quotation that is so ridiculously high that they reject me. So I think it's nice to keep that relationship. So they say, "Oh my God, it's too expensive." So then, too bad lah. That's my price lah. Yeah. So that is how I would handle it. But from that many years of experience, I think we need to define what exactly is a difficult client. So in writing, I would say that the most difficult clients are the ones who don't understand what they want. If they understand what they want, then we don't have any problem because we get a very clear brief on what they're trying to achieve with whatever it is that they want us to write. They're only difficult when they themselves are having internal problems on exactly what they want to achieve, what they want to write. So when they give us a brief, it's haphazard. I've had a client that asked me to revise a write up. I think towards the 12th time, they finally like, oh no, every single time they were like, oh no, this is not right, this is not right. You should change this. You should change this. Why is the flow wrong? I was like, this is already the 10th time. So finally, after the 12th time we revised it, they decided, oh, I think the first one is okay lah. Went back to the first draft, and the first draft was approved. Yeah, that's right. So they themselves have no idea what they want. So basically, I think that is what you mean by a difficult client. Other than that, I wouldn't say any other client is difficult in that sense.
Yeah.
If you're talking about payment, maybe that would be a different category of difficult clients. But
Yeah,
for
that's a
me,
different
that is
issue.
different definition of a difficult client. So I think we need to understand exactly what is the problem we have with this client first. Is it that they're not giving us a good brief, or are we not understanding their brief? So we have to find out the root cause of whatever is the issue. And if I do manage to resolve it, I've had many clients where initially I thought that, my God, they are being so demanding. But later on, as they explained second time, I realized, oh, it's actually a mistake on my part. I have not done sufficient research, or, oh, this is not the direction they wanted. I had misunderstood that. So I reworked it, and we go on to, continue on to many other assignments after that. Yeah, so that's from previous experience as well. How about the rest of you?
Can can I check with you guys? Can you hear me or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
Audrey, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So Audrey.
Yeah, I would add to that in terms of course, getting a good brief
Mm.
is amazing for a writer. I have complimented clients before for giving me really good briefs. And the other aspect that I think could possibly create a lot of difficulty is the scope of work. So if, for example, if they've engaged you to do 5 articles, then they say, oh, I need 8 or I need 10, or actually I need 20.
Actually, Gwen,
That's a completely different issue, right? So I would say to always state to recap the brief that they've given you, especially if they've not given you a good brief, but you end up writing the brief for yourself and send it to them to say, is this what, are we on the same page here, before I get started. And the second thing is to define your work scope very clearly, number of articles or number of pages, or even down to number of revisions. I've been burnt on those before, before I learned to put it in my quotation. So for example, I will always tell clients, okay, 3 revisions, right?
Yep. Same
Only
here.
3 revisions. Yep. Or
Correct.
if there is a significant revision in the work scope or direction, after work begins, we may need to, discuss the quotation again.
Yeah.
So things like that, essentially you're trying to protect yourself and also trying to leave as little leeway for misunderstanding as possible. I feel that helps to prevent a lot of issues before they even start. And of course, none of that will protect you from a client who's downright nasty, which I've also had. And those are the ones that some people I've worked with are naturally quite thick-skinned. They honestly don't care if the client yells at them, if the client uses foul language on them. So yeah, if you're fine with all that, carry on working with the client. But if you feel, your morale, your motivation being affected, if it's affecting other areas of your work or your personal life, then you really need to consider whether you want to work with that client again.
That's a great answer, Audrey. especially on the revisions, right? Because people can come back over and over again and ask for multiple revisions.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
You even have
Marsha,
clients
you
who
wanna
ask to actually want you to cut and paste, and you have to decide on your own integrity whether you want to do that or not.
Right. Yeah.
Marsha, you want to add on to that? Any?
I agree
Any difficult?
when I was younger, it was for me to get angry and then say bye bye. But as I progressed and grew older and I became more exposed to different clients, I tend to take on the mentality of, oh, this client is very difficult, and like the both of you, all of you can say, it's like a good brief is very, very important, because once you've outlined that, it's okay. So, but the next step I would like to add on to is that, do you want to take that on as a learning curve, a new learning experience? Is it a topic that you want to cover? Is it something that you want to do or take on? Then you decide whether you will continue working with the client or not. That's entirely up to you after that.
To me, right, I see it this way. Every time you hit a brick wall, every time you make a mistake, always learn from it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't learn from it, you're going to be a bigger fool the next time. So let's not make the same mistake again. So try to understand what was the problem with the difficult client, and then if you don't like that client, don't work with that client, because we have other clients, right? I mean, hopefully better clients will come along, because sometimes it's also this. I always say, if it's no longer fun, if it's no longer enriching for the both of you, right, it's probably time to say goodbye and let go, right? Let go of the relationship, go on and do other things and find better clients. That's one way of looking. But the other way is also to make sure that you put in place some boundaries for yourself. Know how to decide next time if certain things happen like this again. What are you going to do? When are you going to put a stop to it before it starts getting out of hand? Always learn from our own mistakes. And I'm sure four of us here, we've learned from our mistakes like so many times. Man, it's like crazy, right? Okay, thank you so much, Audrey, for that
we're all
question.
bruised all over running the wall.
Yeah, many over years, I was like, Okay.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a brick wall anymore.
There's another question here. Let's see.
I see Vern.
Oh, I see Vern too. Okay, so let's take Vern's questions first, lah. Since we saw 15. Best advice anyone has given to you as a writer. Best advice. Self-advice considered advice or not?
Yeah, I guess so.
I have two, really.
Okay.
One's from my dad. Because when I first started working, again, like you say, writers not great with numbers, right? So I probably didn't push as hard for a higher salary than I could have. And the joke was at one point when I got my pay adjustment, it was only, I think, 60 ringgit. And at that time, my siblings were in, consultancies, advertising, and all earning big bucks. And the traditional thing is that, when you get a promotion, you go and belanja makan for the whole family, right?
Oh,
and
no,
my dad looked at me and
$60.
said, but the most important thing that my dad did tell me was that not to undervalue my ability to write, because he said, really, not everybody can write. So don't don't get too discouraged or think that it's not worth a lot, because it is. And the second advice was actually from my college professor. In his eyes, writer's block doesn't really exist, which I will leave that for another discussion. But what he did say was that, a lot of times when you get stuck, it's because you just don't have enough information.
Yep.
So throughout my career as a writer, one of the things I've always loved is really compiling a lot of information. And sometimes, you only use 10% of it, but that other 90%, it's like that whole the idea of the iceberg, the depth behind it, the understanding, and that helps you to actually write a really good article, because you have that 90% of understanding, even if only 10% is out there in the article. So that's the two things that I always keep in mind.
Okay.
To add to that, right?
Marsha? Marsha first. Okay,
Yeah.
Marsha first.
I only have one advice, which is
Sorry,
take
Marsha.
criticism
Okay.
better. Take criticisms better, because when I was younger, criticisms were like a slap in the face. So I didn't take it too well, obviously. So, but yeah, I think one of my writer friends told me that every criticism is actually money in your pocket. Take it positively, and I think with that change of mentality a little bit, I think it helped me improve as I grow. So yeah, that's one of the best advice I've gotten as a writer. Actually, take criticism, take it positively.
Okay. Eugene?
I think for me, it's probably one of my friends who said, "Don't be mediocre," and that was what really really struck me as mediocre. So the word carried a lot of weight, because what this person is saying is, do you just want to remain as just a health writer and just a writer? You see, because I always feel that each one of us, we have got far more potential, and writing is a tool, and with writing we can achieve a lot of things in life. Yeah, and not just for ourselves, but also to help society. That is what I believe in. You see, yeah. Is that coming from my phone? Yeah. So that was actually the best advice that I've heard, and I've used writing now more as a tool rather than as my sort of as a for revenue nowadays, because I believe that with writing we really can change the world, really with
Yeah.
writing. Yeah. So probably that is what
That's the power of words.
the power
that I
of the
love about
words.
writing.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. The
How
power of the word.
far-reaching
Yeah,
it can be, and how you
it
can
is.
influence people's feelings, people's actions and emotions, and
Those thoughts.
that's
And get
one of
people
the
to buy things. Get
Oh,
people
well,
to
That's
buy
good.
things.
That's good.
Persuade. Persuade
I know,
people
You
to
can
buy
change.
stuff.
You can change national policy, which I successfully did,
exactly.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
That's one thing which I never thought would be possible. But when I first started it, and I say, but I'm just a writer. I'm just a mom. What can I do? In this advocacy program that I was doing. But I cried a lot. It was very challenging. I hit a lot of brick walls, and I picked myself up and told myself, if I can do this, I can do anything. See, so I think that is what really stuck in my mind. And that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, with you girls. I mean, I want all writers to know that there is far more that we can do with our words and with our love for words rather than just writing. Of course, now
And
I'm no longer a
I wanted to
freelancer.
correct you, Jean. Just now you were saying just a writer. You just said just a
Yeah,
writer.
back then, that's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, back
never
then
let
that was
anyone
why I
say,
told myself.
yeah. Never let
Yes,
anyone
that's
say you're
right.
just a writer, because writers are actually one of the
Correct,
most important people in the company, right?
correct.
You need people to write everything.
And the ability to write is a weapon, just like what your father had said, Audrey, and I think he is so right. That is exactly what my father told me. So he said that you can write what, because at one point I was not able to find any other
Oh
work,
my
and he said,
God!
go back to writing. Why don't you write? You've always been writing. You're writing since you were 10 years old. Pick up your computer. Learn how to use the computer. I was 30 years old, pretty desperate.
I'm
And he said,
so
there's one
weird.
old
Audrey,
computer. Yeah,
She's
go
not
and
excited.
use the com-
Marsha is excited because she
go
saw
and
her friend
use.
ask a question. I think.
Oh no.
What? You're so
It's
afraid
like,
to ask a question.
my UI UX guy from Poland is there. Come on.
Okay, let me pull it up. First. Thomas. What? I can't even pronounce his name. Thomas. So
No, don't ask this, don't. This is
what was the
not
most embarrassing topic
Yeah.
I have to write about? Okay, I can answer that. I can answer that.
No.
No, I'm not answering on behalf of Marsha. I'm answering on my own behalf.
Okay.
Okay. Horse sperm.
Yeah.
Horse sperm. Horse breeding. Dealing with all that kind of stuff. So yes, it was not embarrassing, but it was just, well, when you're writing, you think you're going to
Awkward.
write a lot of other stuff, right? But it's just really awkward stuff. But I did tell you girls, I remember I told you this story also, that when we design websites, we get all kinds of people inquiring and asking us to write for their websites. So one of them was for this Tongkat Ali product, which we didn't. We walked away from it because we didn't want to do that.
Sex, what do you call it? Enhanced
Aphrodisiac.
Aphrodisiac.
Yeah, aphrodisiacs. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are things that, I guess this is really coming back to you personally. There are things that you want to write about, things that you don't want to write about. It's up to you, right? But you really have to decide what you want to write about. So yes, the rest of you, what was the most embarrassing topic you were asked to write about?
Okay, for mine, right, I'll just stick with Krista's one because it's close. Yeah, so it's close to something like that.
I can't think of anything in particular that was
Marsha is not
embarrassing.
close now.
Yes, it's close enough.
Nana, you don't have any. So you don't have any embarrassing stuff. Actually, not really embarrassing. The husband thing wasn't embarrassing. It's just more like very scientific, right? But the fact that, like Audrey said, you have to go and do research, right? You have to read up on all these things. That's like, a lot of the
I think
research.
the one I was most squeamish about was about sheep placenta as a beauty treatment. I just looked at the brief and I looked it up and I was like, "You really?"
It is a thing. It's like
It is a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, and
So I think that was the most the awkward one.
yeah, but there are awkward topics that
Really?
you all
I want
talk
to
about.
pull up this one. Elaine says, so true about
Oh
the
my
class not
God.
knowing what they want. Yes.
Yeah.
So they do not know what they
Yeah.
want. And then
That's when you have a difficult client, isn't it, Elaine? Yeah. But difficult embarrassing
okay,
topics.
hang on. I found another one. There's another
Because
question.
I write
Hang on.
health and even like the thing that Audrey was talking about, very common for me.
Okay, this one back to
okay.
Is
Yes,
there?
that's a very good question.
Eileen asked, is there a different scale of fee for SME and bigger corporations? Is there? Audrey?
Yes, definitely. There should.
I would say there is. I would say there is. But there is to say that SMEs vary a great deal, in terms of how much they're worth or how much they are able to pay, and it's a little bit of a toss up. Some small business owners, because they're not experienced with communications or marketing or advertising, it's a bit hard to actually get on the same page with them, or some of the things that they want to do will seem a little bit odd or not in keeping with what other people are doing. So you might have to spend a lot of time educating, discussing what they want to do. And sometimes entrepreneurs can also be very, very stubborn about their own image and not want to take any kind of input about how to communicate, about their company. So I would say it's not just about the money. The relationship is different when you're dealing with an SME and a large corporation, I feel. Yeah, because SMEs, you tend to, if you're dealing directly with the entrepreneur, they're likely to be more personally invested. Bigger corporations, you might be dealing with an executive level person.
They're more red tape.
It's just doing what their manager asked them to do. So it's a very, I would say it's a very different working relationship, and you're likely to get something different out of it. So the fee in itself, Yes, naturally it will differ if you're working with a big company, but it's not the only thing that's different.
I think at the end of the day, it's not about the scales of the fees that matter, but whether you can get either this SME or the bigger corporation to give you a retainer. I still come back to that, at the end of the day, because you want to look at it as a long-term business rather than just them giving you one business in a whole year, and then the next year again. So you want them to you want to be able to strike up that relationship that Audrey was talking about, whether it's the SME or the bigger corporations, and to be able to be your long-term client. Once you have that long-term client, you just need one or two. They're just like best friends. You don't need that many. So you just have them to support you, and you support them back by giving them, better rates, etc. More engagement, maybe slightly cheaper than otherwise. But you really understood their product inside out. So that matters more, rather than trying to figure out, okay, how much should I charge if it's an SME, or how much should I charge for a bigger corporation. Find out who you think would be able to give you a long-term kind of engagement, rather than a one-off once a year or twice a year, which gives you a lot of anxiety.
Okay, great answer. Okay, let's see. We
Krista,
have
do you
another
see one from Dorothy?
Dorothy. Yeah. Thanks for the great info. Would like to ask what kind of websites, e-commerce or not, you've used, and what hosting companies are using. If you provide more than one service, do you promote it on the same website? Example, writing and web designing have different skills, interests. Okay, so this one, me and Marsha, right? This is a way for me and Marsha to
Correct,
answer.
because I don't have a
Go
website.
ahead.
Yeah, you guys go
No.
ahead. You go. Yeah, both of us are traditional. High five, Audrey.
Yes, high five.
Bye, Krista.
Yeah,
Right.
No, Krista
Yeah.
and Marsha, you two can go for this one.
Krista, go first.
Okay, so because I never, how should I say, I never started out like a writer. When I started, I already joined my husband in the business, so we're already doing website development. So putting writing as part of the website development package was just a natural thing, because a lot of clients, until today, content is still the most difficult thing for many people, many businesses. So there's no way you're going to get any content from your client to build a website. So for us, we package it together. So in our website itself, we already stated down very clearly that it is web development with content and with SEO. So I think in my case, it's slightly different, because I don't really have a writing site just specifically to advertise or promote my writing services. So I think to me, it comes as a package deal. So there's really, I don't really take it out and say, okay, I'll do writing only. Even in the past, so this is what I learned from my mistake. In the past, we used to separate it. We say, okay, you want website copywriting, we'll give you website copywriting. And we can also do website design only, and you give us the content. But we realized it doesn't work that way. Because like I said, design and content really have to come together as an entire package. If you write the content and pass it on to another designer to do, the person wouldn't know how to lay out the content. It's really hard for the web designer.
Context is not there yet.
The context is not there. The person doesn't know why you wrote this and which parts this one must go in, right? Because a website is not just like a book. A book is very easy, right? You laid out page 1 to page 10. But the website, this information, this chunk of information can be in another page. You could take it out and put somewhere else, so the designer may not understand that. So it's really difficult. So to me, it's a package thing. So Marsha, on your side, you really have a website that's dedicated to promoting your services, right?
Yeah, I do. I used to own a lot of top level domain names, TLDs, which means like if I offer freelance writing, it's freelancewritingmalaysia.com or freelance writing, the keyword based domain name.
Nice.
But the one that ranked most and that got me into international waters, so to speak, with sharks and all, it's actually just my name, Marsha Maung. But it got stolen along the way. But yes, I do. Yes, I do. Don't go to the website. It's nonsense there now. Okay, but yeah.
Ooh, now I must go and check it out.
But yes, I do have a website that I combine writing and You girls. Okay.
Let's just
Graphic
continue.
design,
Let's continue.
website designing, and all of that. Yes, I do put it in the same website because it
Yeah,
goes together.
yeah,
So,
Right.
yeah. So hope it answers your question. Let's see. Do we have another one? Yep, we do have one. Final one. We take a final one, lah, right? Because we've been going on for 1 hour and 30
I think
minutes.
we can go on.
What do you do when the client asks you to mark up the price for corporation so that they can get a cut of it?
I've never done it before. I won't do it. Simple as that.
I
I don't know about
used to
anyone.
do it.
I've never.
I used
If
to
I'm
do
going to
it
mark it up, I want to get the cut.
because you know why? I used to work with advertising agencies as well. So
Ah,
and I also work with other freelancers. So those freelancers are just maybe they're doing the brochure and the printing as well. So mine is they ask me to mark it up so that they can add it on into their code and the invoices,
uh-huh.
and they'll pay me my fee. But it's a guaranteed fee that because it's my friend or someone I already work with, so I'm comfortable in that arena. So yeah, I'm comfy doing that only with people I'm familiar with and I trust. Yeah.
Mm,
So
okay.
yeah.
For me, I
Audrey?
really don't. Yeah, for me also, I don't do this because we deal direct with the clients, lah. So unless you don't deal direct, like what Marsha was saying, lah, unless you are part of a team that is delivering the end product, for us we deal direct. So all this marking up, it doesn't really apply to what I do. Maybe Audrey.
Generally, no. I've never been faced with this kind of situation, but I can see how it would come up.
Yeah.
If I was in this position, I generally would prefer not to. Yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't
Mm.
Unless I think it's
seem
agreed, right?
just doesn't seem right
Yeah,
to me.
unless it's agreed.
Yeah, it
I
must
don't
be
know.
agreed prior, lah, right?
Yeah. But I guess like what Marsha is saying is quite different, because they're asking you to mark up not because of the cut, but because it involves other people of whom they need to pay, and maybe it's
Mm.
difficult to claim, or
Yeah.
maybe with
Mm.
the processes in place makes it difficult for them to reapply for these additional people. So that's quite different. But this one is, let's say, um, client asks for you to mark up so that they get a commission out of it. Yeah, no, not in writing, but I have had that when I was doing a social project. So there was one state, somebody in the state government somewhere lah, back then, who asked for this project that wanted us to do, and he said, "Oh, you quote for 200,000, you will definitely guaranteed to get the assignment, dengan syarat that 50% goes back to us." And I'm like, what?
Wow,
What? That means
50%.
yeah,
That's a lot.
correct, 50%.
Wow,
Yeah, so
that's
it's
big
Yeah,
time.
that's a
man.
lot. Yeah, for something like it was a community development project that I was doing, which involves a lot of writing anyway. So he said, I will give you this project. You letak aja 200,000, but syaratnya is that 100,000 comes back to my department. So I was like, what is that supposed to mean? So for me, it's a no. Yeah, I said I don't want to get involved. If later on anything turns up lah. So I think that's quite different from
Yeah.
what Marsha was saying. Yeah, that one is probably acceptable.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so ladies, we have to call it a night. Otherwise, we'll be talking till midnight. So for those who are watching, if you enjoyed this and you think that is really helpful for your writer friends or even for yourself, please share it, with friends and people who are starting out in writing. And then just now I remembered already, I wanted to say who are the people, right, that I think Mala's question. So I wanted to recommend actually people like John Keppels. I think you know about them, right? I mean, these are like copywriters: David Ogilvy, Joseph Sugarman, Robert Bly, Anne Handley. Okay, there's one woman that I found, Anne Handley. She's a really brilliant copywriter. There's Claude Hopkins, J. Abraham, as well as J. Conrad Levinson and Seth Godin. So these are my personal favorite authors and writers that I follow and read. Okay, I just wanted to say that because I kind of remember that halfway. Any last not last words lah.
Yeah.
But Jean, you have a poll, right? You have a survey.
Sorry? Oh yes, yes, I have a survey. It's in the chat box that I sent to you. You want to share that? Could you share that, Krista?
Okay,
Or
the
shall
chat box
I?
as in wait,
The
let me see
WhatsApp.
where is
Was it in a WhatsApp? Yeah, I think it's in a WhatsApp. Yeah. So basically, yeah, basically, guys, what we want to do is to find out, how we can do this because today is just a session where we just come and talk about our experiences and all that. And we want to know how we are able to help others because we don't know what is the kind of information that is required. Don't forget, we are all pretty old school. We are talking about writing 20 years ago. And now it can be very different. The requirements now may be different, the challenges now may be different. So we want to find out what exactly are the challenges that new writers are facing. It may not be the same as what we faced back then. So one thing also which you could say, Krista, if you're saying that is the final words, one thing which I would like to emphasize is that I think writing today is far more challenging than when we were doing writing because it was actually quite clear. You write lah. Now you write, it's so different, the kind of platforms that you write for. And there are things like writing TikTok scripts, for example, that you probably never even dream of back in our days. And and your writing cannot be like what we used to write and the long form writing, grandfather grandmother stories. Make sure the facts are correct. Now nobody cares about facts, just make it funny, make it short, make it, because people have very short attention span. So we have to continuously evolve, and we have to learn the new ways of writing which will appeal to the people of today. So I'm sure that the writers of today will face different sets of challenges, and we like to find out what are the kind of challenges that you are facing, and how we are able to help you to overcome them. Of course, some questions, some challenges remain unchanged throughout, no matter whether you're a new writer, old writer, just starting now, or whatever, they remain the same. But I'm sure that there will be a lot of new challenges which you might be facing now, which we never had that kind of trouble back then. Yeah. So Krista, did you manage to find it?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
so I've put the link to that survey form in the comments. So those of you who are watching, please click that link and help us by filling up that form so that at least we know. The other thing is, what else do we want? Oh, what's next, right? I mean, like most of you are watching this. Okay, so what's next? So we say, okay, based on what you are telling us, we will decide what's next because we feel that this is just a way for us to talk about writing, talk about writing 20 years ago versus writing now, and there's so many topics we could talk about actually. So if you have a topic in mind or you feel that there are certain areas that you want us to go into, please also put in the comments so that when we pick it up, maybe in the next round we'll have another one of these chat sessions again and we can talk about that topic in depth. The other thing is, if you're here for the first time, and please like my Reebok Studio page. That will help a lot. Then you will be updated when we have the next session. Yes. Alan said he's done with the survey. Oh, that's quick.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
nice.
quick. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thanks, Alan.
And
I
Helen
want to add something also before we end, right? Is that one thing that I learned after writing for 20 over years is that after you start writing for clients, so many different formats and all that, one thing that I go back to is always I never stop writing for myself. I think at one point in time, Krista was like the one teasing me. She writes every day. I don't know what she writes about. She keeps writing every day. Because I got multiple blogs and I would write here and I write there, and all that. But I feel that when you start making money out of something that you love, it starts to empty out a part of you that joy, the joy factor that you find. It's like, I love singing, but when I'm paid to sing, I start to feel like it's a job,
Yep.
Right?
It's
It's
work.
different from karaoke. Yeah, it's work already, right?
It's
So I
work,
never
yeah.
stop writing for myself. So I think that's one of the advice that I want to give anyone who's aspiring to be writers and they feel like, this is burning me out, So,
Yeah.
It's true.
I'd say the same. I mean, I went through a patch where I signed up for a writing course, after like 20 years of writing experience, but I signed up for a writing course called Stories of Place, and it was very grounding for me because it made me focus on where I am, what I'm seeing like right now, what's in front of me, what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling, and that was very helpful for me to kind of reconnect after so many years of writing for other people, to write for yourself. And then of course there's I'm horrible at journaling. I can take 3 years to fill one little notebook, but it's cathartic, so you find a way to keep that spark alive, whether it's to just put away the laptop and just write pen and paper for a while, all those different things, or the classic thing of go sit in a cafe, which we can't do now, but you do what it takes to keep that spark and that energy going, because like, a lot of us find that after a while your world seems to grow very small, and you have to work extra hard to broaden your horizons again. So that's it for me.
Okay, so mine is that, like what Marsha says, because our work is writing. We write every single day. And at the end of the day, do you have energy to write for your own blog? So that's why I was like, Marsha, salute. I do not know how you do it, because it's really hard.
It is
It's hard because writing has to be fun. Writing has to be enjoyable. Writing has to bring out that spark in you, right? And when you're really writing for your business, at the end of the day, do you want to write for your blog? So, but the other thing I found is also this: if I don't write in my blog, I lose that spark also, because then it's not writer's block, but it's just that you kind of lose this zeal for writing. So you cannot lose that zeal for writing, because writing is really part and parcel of our lives, right? So for me, I think, like it or not, we still have to get back into some form of writing, but to really have that special place, to me, that special place is my blog, where I can write and rant and say whatever rubbish I want to say, and then go back to the writing that you do for your clients and the people who need your writing. So it's a two different kinds of writing, but it's still writing. I don't know how to explain it, but that's the way it is.
Actually, you can even like bullet journal, or any way you can get your writing out. It can be a notebook, something.
And the other tip is always have writer friends that you can go and say, hey, it's like very tiring. Can we just talk about? Can we just kind of grumble about it a bit, and have fun with people who really understand you, because sometimes it's really hard. Right? Yeah. It's really hard. Writing is not easy. So to all people out there, people think that it's just writing, right? Just beautify the thing, right? Take a couple of like words and make it beautiful, right? That's what I always hear, and that's what annoys me the most, because it's not just beautify. It's not making it flowery. It's really making the message heard. Okay, so there are some comments. Where is it? Okay, so Aiju says, come join us.
Wow.
We plan to start a private Facebook group, I just
wanted to
like a network. Like a network of writers.
If you all want to, we can start it, and we can go and hang out there and chat about writing and the angst of writing. And words can change it. Yes, thank you for being with us. Oh my God, this is really
thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, all the comments, all the likes.
Dorothy, thanks to Joanna Lee. I don't know who Joanna Lee is, but thank you, Joanna.
Yeah, Joanna is one of our
thank you, Joanna Lee.
friends. Yeah, Joanna was one of our IGEM people. Yeah, one of.
Okay, thank you, Izzy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
My life journal might get revived. Yes.
Might, take away the word might and put will. Your words have power, Izzy.
Yeah.
Your words have power.
So if
life journal blog will be revived.
This weekend. Yeah.
So see, they're already editing.
Yeah. So for all of you watching, if you really want to join our private Facebook group, see, Jean, probably we have to start it now, since like so many people want to be part of this, commiserating with other writers, right?
Yeah, so I think it's about time. But I just want to say this last thing just before we end. As you say, I just want to remind everybody who's listening in today, and even to other people whom you're going to share this link with, hopefully, writing is a gift. Yeah, not everybody has it. It is a gift, and not everybody will be able to do it. So it's just like people can repair cars. How come some people can be doctors? I know I can't be a doctor, and it is a gift. There's a reason why it's given to you, given to me, given to all these people who are listening in today. So it is something which not everybody gets. And writing, like what Krista was describing just now, is muscle memory. It's muscle memory. It's just like learning to ride a bicycle, learning how to swim. Once you learn how to swim, how to ride a bicycle, for many years you can stop doing it. Like for me, I write so many different stuff. So sometimes now that I start writing for myself again on Facebook, you can follow me on Facebook, yeah. So now that
Yeah,
I'm
right.
going back to writing for myself on Facebook again, I discovered, hey, I haven't lost it. I thought I would have lost it, But yeah, it is muscle memory. You learned it. And I really come to appreciate that this is a gift that I must cherish. That's one reminder that I just want all of you to take home
Yeah.
with you.
A
Yeah.
great reminder.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget.
Yes, you see, it's something.
Because
It's a gem.
we write for a living.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we
Right.
My
write
eyeballs
so
did it
much.
already.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
if
yes.
all of you today, you want to follow them, find Audrey, find Lee Jin, and find Marsha on Facebook. And Alan says, if you guys ever start a private Facebook group, we'll definitely join as well. Yes. So probably, come. We're probably going to start something strange but true.
Right,
But Jin, your dream,
Strange but true.
Jin, your dream is coming true. Starting the private Facebook group. So okay,
No,
so
we
thank
have
you
to
everyone.
go beyond.
We have to
Yeah.
say good night. We have to say good night. Otherwise, we'll be
Sure.
here till midnight.
Yes.
So thank you everyone, and thank you for watching it on LinkedIn, watching it on YouTube. I know some people
Thank
are
you
watching
so
on
much.
YouTube, and of course on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us. And if there's a chance, we'll probably be back again, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Bye bye everyone.
Good
Bye.
night,
Thank you
everyone.
for
Thanks.
joining
Bye,
Good
us.
night.
everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Night.